Hi, my name is Kate Gaskin. I'm the director of the Adroit Journal Summer Mentorship Program. Every year, we bring together some of the most promising high school aged writers from across the world, and we pair them with established writers of poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction. To tell you more about the founding of the mentorship program, I'd like to introduce our founder and editor in chief, Peter LaBerge. Peter LaBerge is the author of the chapbooks Makeshift Cathedral, Yes, Yes Books, 2017, and Hook, Sibling Rivalry Press, 2015. His poetry has received a Pushcart Prize and has appeared in Agni, American Poetry Review, Best New Poets, the Georgia Review, the Kenyon Review, and New England Review. LaBerge received his BA from the University of Pennsylvania and his MFA from New York University, where he studied as a writers in the public schools fellow. He is the founder and editor in chief of the Adroit Journal and the founder of Ellipsis Writing. Welcome, Peter.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you, Kate. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the Adroit mentors, mentees, and staff members joining us tonight. I'm so excited to welcome you to this celebration of our Summer Mentorship Program and the launch of the Peter LaBerge Scholarship Fund. I started the Adroit Journal as a high school student back in 2010 because I felt there was a genuine shortage of opportunities for young writers to showcase their work and find a place for themselves in writing-centered communities. I knew poetry was important to me, and I knew there were many other poets in my shoes, and I wanted to basically do something about it. Fast forward 15 years, and Adroit is now one of the top ranked literary journals in the country and in the world, actually. But the amazing thing is that we've gotten there not by becoming an exclusive club that only admits people with long and illustrious resumes, but rather by deepening our commitment to mentoring and showcasing emerging and established writers and artists globally through publication, dedicated programming, diverse engagement opportunities, community building initiatives, and of course, our free accessible content. No program exemplifies this commitment better than the Adroit Journal Summer Mentorship Program, which has grown in depth and community every year since its inception in 2013. The class of 2026, which marks our 14th year, which is wild to think about, will include 42 mentors working with 84 mentees. As it's grown, I've striven to partner with mentorship leadership to make the program even better. This is originally what set us on the path of making the mentorship even more accessible and along the way creating this exciting scholarship fund. It allows us to provide more deserving young writers with the opportunity to learn from dedicated experts, to refine their artistic missions, to hatch genuine, long-lasting connections with each other, and, of course, to gain access to communities and institutions that might otherwise seem out of reach. The mission of the Peter LaBerge Scholarship Fund is to ensure that every talented young writer has access to transformative mentorship through the Adroit Journal, regardless of socioeconomic background. Specifically, we hope to raise $10,000 by the end of this month, and your support would mean the world. Donations can be made at www.theadroitjournal.org/donate, which you'll find linked in the chat as well, I believe. And please reach out to our development director, Miklos, with any questions at development@theadroitjournal.org. Okay. That's the shameless plug. It's time for our featured writers and their mentors to take center stage. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to our brilliant mentees, I know some of you are here this evening. Thank you for sharing your art with Adroit and for entrusting your attention, time, and dedication to the mentorship team. We truly are here to help you flourish as artists, and I know you're going to have an amazing summer working with your mentors. Okay, so I'm going to pass it back to Kate to kick things off and get us started.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Um, I want to tell you a little bit more about the mentorship program. So, for the next 6 weeks, our mentees are going to work closely with their mentors to learn about and improve upon their writing craft. So, they're going to gain knowledge and insight into publishing and writing industries and basically strike up communication with these professional writers that we hope will go forward into the future. And they're going to be meeting each other and creating bonds with each other over their shared love of writing. Previous Adroit mentees have gone on to win awards and recognition from organizations like the National Young Arts Foundation, the National Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and the Foyle Young Poet of the Year Awards. They've taken what they've learned back into their communities as youth poet laureates and arts organizers. Many of them matriculate at Ivy League universities. All of them improve their practice of writing while building a lifelong love for it, and I would say also building connections and friendships with each other and their mentors that will last a long time, maybe forever. Today, as a special treat, we want to introduce two of our former mentees, Kavya Deer and Hoshika Shu, who will give a reading of their work. And then I'm going to bring on their mentors, Christina Olson and Scott Edward Anderson, for a short conversation. Up first, we have Kavya. Kavya is the 2025-2026 Houston Youth Poet Laureate and a proud Houstonian. True to her namesake, Kavya originates from the Sanskrit word for poetry. A 2025 commended Foyle Young Poet, Kavya first discovered her love for poetry in the local classrooms of Writers in the Schools and J. Mark Price's writing workshop. Her work reflects her family's rich background and experiences, spanning the regions of South America to South Asia, as well as her passion for community service and the commonality of human emotion. She is an alumna of the Adroit Journal Summer Mentorship Program, the Kenyon Review Young Writers Workshop, and the Juniper Institute for Young Writers. Her work has appeared in Columbia Journal, the Oxonian Review, Wildness, and elsewhere. Welcome, Kavya.
Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well this evening. Thank you so much to Kate for that wonderful introduction. The first poem I will be reading tonight is one I wrote during my mentorship, and it's titled A Brooders Manual to Grief after Yoshitomo Nara's Jolie the Little Thinker. Imagine your grief is an animal. Put down your dowsing rods. You will find the river's current where your grief surfaces eventually, its tongue turbid, its eyes dimming copper, its throat hum low as the moon, as your mother's radio hymns. Sing, if that attracts your grief. When the sky turns milky, I'll listen carefully under the river, tongue ready to rise to the surface, to pierce the heart with my drawn bow, a swan's tailbone quietly sinking into its soft target. If the animal wakes, still frostbitten as the wound drains, wait for the pulse to hush beneath that flaxen cloak. Blow out summer's birthday candle, celebrate another year survived. For the mist to lift, lay the body where it begs to be laid. Then, look up. The sky will bear its triptych, razor teeth clouds softening into silver-backed fish, leaping from the boat, leaping back into the blue. Then, only then, will the snapdragons quit napping. Then, only then, you can rest. And then the second poem I will be reading is one I also wrote during the mentorship, and it was under the prompt of write like a form poem. So this is a sestina, and I wrote it following the very sad and tragic flood that happened here in in Texas with Camp Mystic. This is a campfire sings in Hunt, Texas. Yesterday, Mystic floated downstream. The bouquet of bodies came to rest beneath flashlights held like Texan prayer. Small lights shaking in small hands, each breath a wish. They searched gently through brush, gently through bone, gently through silent tears. What can we do with all these tears? We can carry them. We can hold them downstream. We can quiet them, gently, gently, enough to grant us rest, enough for the rest to dissolve into the nest of our grief. In each breath, another soft gem of hope glints through rivered prayer. Even now, grief whispers its own prayer. It fills the throat like water. I carry these tears in my throat even though they are ours shared like breath. Each one glimmers, a gem I've held too long. Downstream, the sky inhales what we cannot. To rest is to resist. In mourning, we move softly, gently. We don't ask why, instead we ask gently, why so soon? What's the power of a midnight prayer? In the dark, do the ghosts blanket them as they rest? Do the water fold them into tears? I watch bunnies skip toward midnight downstream, wondering if each one was another child's chance at breath. How long can a child hold their breath? In the pool, we played our way through childhood. Gently, we slipped into adulthood, paddling silently downstream. We muttered prayer after prayer for slicker summers and cooler popsicles, until the tears find our cheeks like rain. Then the river rose. Then they came to rest. We mistook that hush for rest, but something still stirs on the breath of the backyard trees. Green ribbon, girly bows. Our tears blossom along the river, unfurling gently. We whisper again, we remember the prayer. We row, row, row our grief gently down the stream. We gently dream, our eyes salty and open. Downstream, we rest inside each angel's rippling breath. They carry our prayers skyward, offering back their tears. Thank you.
So gorgeous. Thank you so much, Kavya. That was so beautiful, both poems. I like that Christina wrote in the chat, who takes on a sestina. Kavya does. Gorgeous, gorgeous use of form and just beautiful poem. Thank you so much. Okay, so I also want to welcome Kavya's mentor, Christina Olson. And I'm going to ask you both a couple of questions. So first, I would like to ask you to share how participating in the mentorship as a mentee, in Christina's case as a mentor, has added value to your life and your writing practice. And Kavya, you could go first.
Okay, well, I think first off, for starters, the mentorship program really gave me this incredible opportunity to engage with my peers' work, especially their early drafts, in like um, my own intimate space and for like a prolonged amount of time, because I feel like usually when people are sharing their work, it's sort of fleeting because they're reciting their poem very quickly and maybe like nervously in 2 or 3 minutes. And I think I really appreciated getting to sit with my peers' work for a long time, because I think with poetry and a lot of forms of writing, you're trying to communicate this like deeply personal thing that feels both intimate and something that maybe you want to feel universally accessible. And that requires a lot of engagement and like a deeper appreciation, and that requires time. Um, and I especially think that the mentorship program really encourages young writers through that sort of format to be comfortable feeling vulnerable. And I think when you feel comfortable feeling vulnerable, your truth and what you're really trying to say with your words really comes to the surface. And I know for me, I was able to reach a more nuanced level of creativity once I once I learned to be comfortable in my vulnerability. And I'm really thankful to the mentorship program for that.
Has that transformative quality of vulnerability, has that leached into other parts of your non-creative, non-writing life? Is that something that you can take with you in other ways that you show up throughout the day in work and school and friendships?
I mean, yeah, I think definitely because writing, it is a conversation in a lot of ways. And so I feel like that vulnerability can manifest into my interactions with other people and the way I approach maybe like conflict in my daily life, and being vulnerable about how I view the situation. So.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. I want to ask Christina now. So, Christina, how has your experience being a mentor and the Adroit Journal's Summer Mentorship Program, how has that shaped or brought value to your writing life and your regular life?
Yeah, so okay, so in my day-to-day life, I'm fortunate enough to be a professor of creative writing. That is not, always the case, and writers do not have to be teachers for those of us who are listening. But that's the path that I ended up on. And so, one of the things that I always tell my students is that you do not have to get an advanced degree in creative writing, right? Because at the end of the day, becoming a writer is a process of mentorship and it's a process of apprenticing. And I say this as someone with an MFA. I respect the MFA and the PhD. Obviously, I work in academia. But I also, I think about a writer like Larry Brown, one of my favorite writers of fiction, who taught himself how to write by reading everything he could get his hands on and then sending out stories and then, getting them back and revising again and again. And so, I think there's many different pathways where we learn to write. And, at the end of the day, writing can be we have to do it alone by ourselves in a room, right? For the work on the page. But so much more of writing is actually about community and figuring out who your teachers are and who your mentors are and who your people are, right? Your community that you're building. And for me, I believe really strongly that because I had that amazing sort of mentorship and community, like one, I need to give it back, right? Like I need to be able to pay that forward because people did that for me when I was starting out, especially in my teens and in my very early 20s. But I also think that it's important for me as a writer to stay connected and mentoring and communicating with writers because it also makes me a better writer at the end of the day, right? And so, yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of Adroit and to work with someone like Kavya. I mean, when we were working on that poem at Sestina, that had just happened. And I remember so much of our conversation was about, like, how do we write about something? How do we turn something into an elegy when it's still unfolding? And the conversations we would have about how a Sestina's repetition, lets the speaker really turn something over and over. I mean, we just had phenomenal conversations. Well, I think we did, but I think, and she brought so much of that poem to me, from the get-go. So just being able to work with someone outside of the classroom is so, so important.
Thank you, Christina. And I just want to say, Kavya, that Christina has been a mentor to me as well. And I told her that she is my friend now and that she's never not allowed to be my friend. So I think that's another amazing thing about the mentorship program, as even though Christina and I did not, I was not a teenager when she was my mentor. So we didn't go through this program, but I know she's been mentoring many writers for many years, and those bonds of writing and community and friendship can persist for as long as you tell your mentor they have to.
Yeah.
Christina likes me.
I do. Kate has a beach house. No, it's not. No, but it's okay. So fun, right? It's so fun to have these numbers in your phone and be able to text people and be like, hey, here's this or whatever it might be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kavya, I wanted to end this portion of the conversation by asking you what kinds of writing projects you're working on now and what's next for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think in my youth poet laureate, tenure, a lot of what I do, is community based, but I think within that, I've had the really cool opportunity to do sort of like cross-medium collaborations within the arts world. So I did a project back in May with the Indian dance group where I basically actually the name of the dance program they were doing was called Kavya Poetry in Motion before I even joined it as poet laureate, so that was interesting. And I got to open their show as a curtain raiser, recite an original poem, and they choreographed something to it, which was really cool. I had never had my, words put into physical form. Um, and so I'm trying to do a lot more of that. I'm working with a lot of theater groups in Houston, and I'm participating in a Latin theater festival this coming weekend, actually, and I will be performing a poem following one of the original plays that will be debuting. So I'm hoping to do more of that and maybe dabble even into the music performance side of things. But
That's amazing. Well, good luck. Good luck with your performance and all of the cross genres, multimedia stuff you're doing. That's amazing.
thank you.
Really appreciate your being here to read for us tonight and to talk a little bit about your mentorship program. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to, or I'm going to actually introduce our Director of Development, Miklos. And he's going to give us a rundown on how you can donate to the Peter LaBerge Scholarship Fund.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you so much for that wonderful reading and conversation, Kavya and Christina. My name is Miklos, and the Adroit Journal has meant so much to me as a writer and reader that last year I decided to join as their Director of Development. As part of our efforts to make sure the mentorship program continues to thrive and grow, we're launching a scholarship fund, and that's why we're here tonight to celebrate our mentees, mentors, and their work, and to launch the Peter LaBerge Scholarships. The Peter LaBerge Scholarships will directly fund the mentorship program by providing relief from tuition costs to mentees who demonstrate financial need. We're seeing firsthand how important the mentorship community is to the program, how the variety of voices make it so unique within the international literary landscape. And we've heard about how it empowers young writers to believe in themselves and their art, and in their art as dance. Mentees go on to be recognized as the nation's top young creators of poetry and prose. They go on to attend the nation's best colleges and, more importantly, make incredible work while they're there. What we at the Adroit Journal want is to be able to support as many qualified applicants as possible in similar journeys, especially those who might not be able to afford access to programs like this in other circumstances. So I'm asking you tonight to consider making a donation to the Peter LaBerge Scholarships. There's a link in the chat to the donations page. Anything helps and will be appreciated. We've gotten $3 donations and we've gotten $5,000 donations in the past, and every little thing is appreciated. For donations of $100 or more, we will say thank you by sending in a Adroit Journal tote bag. For donations of $500 or more, we will send the tote and name you as a founding member of the Peter LaBerge Scholarships. Our goal, as Peter mentioned, is to raise $10,000 by the end of June. That will mean we've doubled the total, actually gone past doubling the total of scholarships we were able to offer for this year. So it'd be really, really meaningful. If you're interested in sustained support or have some other way of contributing to development and advancement at the Adroit Journal, perhaps you're close to an organization that donates to literary nonprofits or work for a business that would like to partner with us, please reach out to me at development@theadroitjournal.org. Thank you so, so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Kate for our second mentee-mentor pairing.
Thank you, Miklos. Next, we're going to hear new work from Hoshiko Shu. Hoshiko Shu is a Taiwanese-American writer from Queens, New York, currently the 2026 NYC Youth Poet Laureate. Her performances have been featured most notably at Federal Hall, Brooklyn Museum, on WNYC, and more. A pusher of deeper self and inner understanding, she hosts open mics and various workshop series alongside performances to encourage poetry as a communal art form. Her work, Poetry and Prose, spans themes of racial justice, queerness, and self-temporality. When not writing, you can find her accompanying her two cats, Peanut and Butter. Hoshiko will be attending the University of Pennsylvania in the fall. Okay, welcome, Hoshiko.
Hi, hello. Today I'm going to be performing one poem and one creative nonfiction excerpt. But my first spoken word poem is an ode to my hometown, and its title is The Funny Thing About Queens. The funny thing about Queens is the way its ribs catch like a mother anxious to hold me. The way its streets Douglaston to the Rockaways taste my brine tears in ocean depths and still swallow them without wincing, their hands gnarled into faded crossing lights that stop you to wait. But gun to my head, ask a street name and I'll choke, my tongue only knowing how to wrap around directions like by the Mickey's Playhouse, by the H Mart that sells Tibetan food, by the Cookware Plaza painted green, not forest green, acid green, ha. The funny thing about Queens is its labyrinth nature, every 2 avenues, a world you've never seen. You could get the best baklava in the world at 5 shops within walking distance. Each Persian, Turkish, Greek, Syrian, Lebanese owner promising samples that taste like missing dreams found on the roof of your mouth. Like drowning honey faces at County Farm, like joy is suddenly everywhere and infinite and pistachio flavored. And I've only had baklava from the Greek place, so I'll take that one's word for it. The funny thing about Queens is it never leaves you. When the ground swallows you whole, she leaves a glimmer golden within your marrow, so every stretch is a reawakening of ancestry older than royalty. Of vowels and vows you'll learn nowhere else, of love that goes beyond construction and just is. In Meadows, Bayside, Astoria, every fantasy I've had has come and left me, but I love it enough to not beg for it back. I felt every street, paved, unpaved, under my clumsy feet, and felt the broken, unbroken hearts, felt the migrating hope that laces this ground like shoestring a child loops for the first time, like embroidery sewn into grandmother's handkerchief, like watered sewage the city will never get rid of. This hope pounds in my ear like lunar gongs. A reminder that this is the whole of our universe, its truths written into sidewalk scratchings and basketballs bouncing off abandoned courts. Can you hear them now? The best thing about Queens is that you do not have to be born here to belong. I see her in the newborn's cries demanding to be heard. In every black, brown, yellow child living to defy another day, in every footprint brave enough to leave a mark in ground and say, I was here. Ha. And we still are. Thank you. And then I have a creative nonfiction excerpt, which I'll read. I wrote it during the mentorship, and it's from a longer piece titled When the Smoke Cleared. Too tired to do anything else, I looked in a sea of moving people and found her. There Amira was, under dim blue lights, hands cupped around her mouth as she screamed lyrics into a moving crowd. I remember wondering where all this yelling would go and if, like entropy, it would only increase with time. Gradually pushing us over the limit where this charade of innocence would end, I remember wondering if we would ever get this feeling again. Just as this thought crossed my mind, the speakers around the room began to shake, starting a new bodily wave. But in the center of the floor, a chorus of shouts to the lyrics echoed as people bumped around, swaying sweaty bodies to percussion. Amira was among them. A face in the crowd as people flung their hands in the air. She screamed something incoherent, her sequin top reflecting the light so brightly that for a split second, I considered this may be heaven. And though she never said it, I think we both imagined that 17 was the age to die. We thought about aging extensively. When we went out, Amira would make a point of buying skincare for problems she didn't yet have. Prevention, she'd say loosely. At home, neither of us shed our fashionable costumes until we absolutely had to. Underneath it all, we wanted to freeze our lives just the way they were, in the limbo between childhood and adulthood, and still able to return to either without judgment. But what would happen when we were no longer 15 or 16 or 17? Would we still laugh like we had no cares in the world, content to straddle adulthood while safely children? Would we still appreciate the way disco lights shine on our faces and make it look almost as if instead of shouting, we were crying? Still, that's what we wanted our lives to be, unchanging, frozen in this glamorous moment that couldn't be anything less. These were truths we never voiced, but were acutely aware of. When we left that night, Amira slurred as we called a car to come take us home. Standing on the street corner, she laughed and mumbled incoherently. She'd panted, hitting her thigh as she bent over, her hands on her knees. After a few moments, she yelled to the dark sky, drool running down her chin. We didn't leave when it was already over. She yelled it so vindictively, like we'd proven somebody wrong. As I hauled her into a cab, I felt her head nod onto my shoulder and stay there. The driver, an older man with graying hair and aviator sunglasses, was thankfully quiet as he drove us, only turning on the radio to static jazz. I looked out the window, gazing at groups of people as we passed, glimpsing the stores that turned off their lights for the night. Yet in this car, I knew that with each passing second, we were getting older. One day soon, we would wake up and realize that nothing was the way we remembered and never would be again. So knowing this, I let Amira sleep on my shoulder as the jazz buzzed away on the radio. For a moment, I was certain we knew everything about each other. For a moment, this was the saddest thing ever. Thank you.
That was so wonderful. Thank you, Hashiko. I love the CNF piece, but what I wanted to say was how lovely it was to hear both you and Kavya read poems that are so uniquely, specifically grounded in place and the environments that made you and raised you. And I just was blown away by how specific the language was, and how funny and lovely and wonderful it is to get a glimpse into Queens from your perspective. So thank you. That was really wonderful. I also want to welcome your mentor, Scott Edward Anderson. And I am going to ask you guys a couple of questions. So I'm going to start with just wondering how participating in the mentorship program, how has that added value to your life and your writing practice? Hoshiko, you can go first.
For me, I would always say it added a lot of structure to my life, but also it added a sort of repertoire of work that I could always reliably look back upon and say, like, this holds some sort of meaning for me that I haven't yet uncovered yet. Um, because I remember, I think during my talk with Scott, I had said something about like, oh, I know that everyone says I should write every single day. And before I'd finished, he was like, yes, you should. Writing is a must. Yes, you must. And I remember that, and I incorporate that a lot into my daily schedule, just writing fragments here and there. And when I find myself in ruts, because I was a student, work goes on, stuff happens. It was really helpful to be able to go back to my syllabus because I love that document so much. I have it starred and saved on my browser because there's so many works in there that are so specifically curated to like topics and places and people that I was interested in. So I even think within my 6 weeks at Adroit, it wasn't enough time for me to go through everything and feel like I'd reached some sort of climax of conclusion. So in some way that's frustrating, in some way that's really not, because now I get to go back and reread works and look at them with different perspectives. So for me, it's added a lot of meaning I think would have been very difficult to garner otherwise. And with that comes really good structure. So yeah.
I think that's so interesting that it helped create a sense of structure, because I know that that's something that many people struggle with, including me. And I think it's so interesting that your syllabus is continuing to unlock itself for you and enrich your life. Are there any specific authors that you've discovered through that syllabus or through participating in the program that you now love?
Um, I would say I need to do more work into this. Reading consistently is something I'm getting better at, but one of my favorite pieces in the package is Melissa Phoebus's The Heart Work. I think it was like writing about trauma as a subversive act. And I go back to that a lot, and I'm also trying to read more of her work. So yeah.
She's an incredible writer, so you're going to love going into her oeuvre. Um, so, has the mentorship brought a sense of structure to your non-writing life? Are there any lessons or things that you have been able to take away into your everyday life that the mentorship helped to give you?
Definitely. I mean, writing for me, it's the way that I approach writing is the way that I approach my life. So having more structure within the mentorship and being able to find more meaning, though it's difficult to put into words depending on the pieces, being able to find, I suppose, a little more mindfulness around language and metaphor and thinking about what things could actually mean has helped me approach a lot of things, I think, with a more tender perspective. Um, and I think the good thing about that is like it started mostly in Adroit. It's something I'll continue for the rest of my life, and I probably won't be able to finish, but it's a great journey to be on, and I would say definitely it's helped me a lot.
That's such an excellent point. I do think that reading and writing both can create a feeling of so much empathy within us as people that we can take into our lives. I know that's been true for me, so I'm glad that that has also been true for you. Scott, what has your experience been like as a mentor? How has that added to your life, both your writing practice and just your everyday life?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say congratulations, Soshiko, on getting into Penn. That is fantastic news. And you're the second of my mentees to go to Penn. You're going to have to look up Madeline Chun, who's there. She'll be a senior. I worked with her 4 years ago. So congratulations. Yeah, I'll introduce you. Um, so, you know, really, the honest answer is I get more out of this than I put in, and I put in a lot. I mean, we had some really heartfelt conversations. We tried to Zoom as much as we could. Um, I tried to encourage her in the development of that essay that she wrote from. Amira is an amazing character, and if she doesn't expand this into a book, I'll be really disappointed, because it the whole way that you were dealing with time and friendship and kind of the quiet grief of growing up that we all experience, it's so universal. But the tactical presence of the voice that you had in that piece, and of Amira as a not just a muse, but a whole being, you could really get a piece of it and really understand and grasp it. um and I just, it's sort of working as a mentor in this program always reminds me of why I became a writer in the first place, and why that passion stayed with me, and I've continued to do it all these years. I mean, Oshiko came in already, as you can tell from what she read tonight, already perceptive. She has a really beautiful gift, but I felt like she left with a genuine sense of craft, and that was just so remarkable to watch, that sort of growth happening over just such a short span of time. 6 weeks is not a long time, to be working. with someone, but to see the growth. And I wanted to point out there was something I wrote to her in my final portfolio review, because we were talking about what pieces of work, um, uh, you know, kind of informed her writing. And there was one piece that she went back to, Alyssa Washida's White City. And, she kind of like, I think she put it as she blends haunting images with stark reality. And I thought, okay, that's showing that you're learning to read as a writer, not just as a reader, because there is a difference. And I think a lot of our, as writers, it's not that we're looking for something that we can use from that, but it's a way of perception and a way of paying attention. And that was so beautiful to see develop and blossom. And the fact that you're continuing to go back to the syllabus is really, really remarkable. So, why I keep coming back as a mentor, I think this is my fourth, maybe fifth season. The writing practice is kind of that piece of it is kind of simple. Being in close conversation with writers who are working hard and asking real questions about their work and about what their craft. It kind of keeps me honest about my own and makes me ask those questions, and I kind of reflect on that. But I also feel that, and I've lectured about this, that revision is the real work, and so seeing that progress during the 6 weeks, and how the final portfolio change, from the original, is just so great to see. And yeah, it's just remarkable. I mean, I mentioned Madeline Chen, but I also wanted to mention Ben Grosskopf, who I worked with 2 years ago, and I just found out that he got into BU. He's very excited. It's great to see what they're doing next, So I'll leave it at that. But
Thank you, Scott. And thank you for all of your wonderful years of service as a mentor, because it really is an act of, the word on the tip of my tongue is labor, but I don't even think that really is appropriate. It's more like an act of service and for love of community and for love of paying forward this sort of gift of writing and everything.
I think Christina said that too. Like, it's a chance to give back. It's really important. I really think that's important.
And what is so remarkable to me, because I know Christina and I know how central mentorship is to her identity as a writer, and it seems like it's very central to your identity too. And I think that's such a wonderful model for our mentees, because it really shows how a writing practice is not. Christina said, well, you're just like writing in a room by yourself. And I think writing can feel very difficult if we just reduce it down to that. And so we have to open up writing to community and to mentorship and to bonds and to paying forward to generations that are coming after us and pulling them up after us. So I'm super grateful for the work that you and Christina and all of our mentors do. And many of our mentors in the program are returning mentors, and they return for years and years and years. It's because they love the mentees are incredible. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach even more of these talented young writers like Hoshiko and like Kavya, who are out there. Hoshiko, I actually have one more question for you. So I am also interested in what you are working on now, what kind of writing projects you're working on now, and what is next for you.
It's similar to Kavya. Kavya, your work was amazing, phenomenal. But in my Youth Poet Laureate role, which is really turning out to define my year, one, I get the really cool opportunity of combining or looking at poetry through a sort of civic engagement lens. And with that comes a lot of performance opportunities. So tomorrow I'm doing a Pride performance at Flushing Town Hall. And then the week after, I'm doing a performance for the Children's Defense Fund. And more things over the summer, like I'm excited to be going to the Poetry Festival and speaking at Lincoln Center. So a lot of really great events, but I think on a more personal note, my favorite work that I've done with sort of tangibly related to writing is being able to host my own workshop series, which is called Before Us and Within Us. And it's looking at poetry through a historic lens based on different monthly themes and seeing how has poetry been used, whether as an act of resistance or as a different way to engage with other marginalized communities, and sort of how do we do that now. So yeah, I've been able to do really fun things like that and host slams. And then what's next? I'm going to college. Yay! I'm going to college. And I actually got word today that I was admitted to the University Scholars Program, where I'm going to be looking at a lot of historical archives like legal, business, economic, probably dating back to the 1800s to gain a better understanding of the Asian female diaspora. And then I'm going to synthesize all that with creative writing. What that will look like, we'll see in 4 years. So long writing project, but that's sort of what's next for me, and I'm really excited.
That is so wonderful. Congratulations. And I am so excited to see what all of this care and investment, what it engenders in the future for not just your writing, but for Kavia's and for everyone who comes through the program. And I'm also so thrilled to hear that. And I know that Kavia's doing this as well. You're going back into the community and you're sharing this gift with other writers. It's so wonderful. It's this cascading effect that I think our mentorship really encapsulates, because I know that y'all would be doing these things anyway if you hadn't participated. But I do think that being in the program is super enriching, and it lights a fire in you to want to get back out there and like make that community and share writing with other people. Thank you so much to both Hoshiko and Kavya, as well as Christina and Scott, for being here tonight. We're super, super fortunate to have you. Thank you to Peter and to Miklos for emphasizing how valuable and important the Adroit Journal Summer Mentorship Program is. If you would like to contribute to the Peter LaBerge Scholarship Fund to help us reach these talented and promising young writers like Hoshiko and Kavya, we would be so grateful. You can find the link in the chat to donate, or you can go to theadroitjournal.org. There's a donation page set up there as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And it was so wonderful to hear from everyone. Good night.